This little bike you've probably never heard of before is called the HiKeep K6-G. It's a moped style bike with a 48 volt 15 amp hour battery and a 1500 watt peak hub motor. It also comes with full suspension, mag wheels, and a built-in front and rear taillight with turn signals. For $899 shipped, those are some pretty good specs on paper. So the price is right, the specs are right, but is this thing any good today? We're gonna find out. So I actually haven't heard a whole lot about HiKeep as a brand, but when I saw this bike and the specs for this price, I thought it would be a really cool bike to check out. You can see that's how this bike should look. They got a picture of it on the box. We've got a few boxes that they include in here. They even include a little mini foot pump. Got another box here. Packaging foam. Let's see what they give us in this box here. Yeah, so they said they were gonna send a pair of glasses with this bike. These are sick. Oh my God, these are so sick. I'm definitely wearing these. It's the first time I ever got sunglasses included with my e-bike. And they also put this headlight in that box. First time I ever saw this light on a bike. And this is the charger they include for us. It's a 2 amp charger and it just feels super, super light. They also sent me one of these little bags here that you can set on the bike somewhere. Nice to have. As always, we're doing things the hard way here. So the battery on here, like we said, is a 15 amp hour HiKeep branded battery. Also comes with some keys for us to take off. We can use those keys to take this battery off and see what it's all about. 48 volt, 15 amp hour, 720 watt hour battery that was made on Christmas Eve of 2024. Right now it looks like our battery's charged up to about 49.3 volts, which is just over half. So we'll get this thing on the charger and charged up so that we got some juice later when we go take this thing out for a ride in a bit. These are mag wheels, which is really nice to have, especially for this price. They actually zip tied the axle here to the wheel. This is just one of those bikes you definitely got to flip the bike upside down in order to get the wheel on, because it was just a big pain in the butt, even if you got someone helping you. There we go. We'll get this guy flipped back over. Got our kickstand already installed. I actually think that the bike looks better without a fender on the front, but it's March and it's very muddy and wet outside, so I don't want to get my clothes dirty. And this bike actually comes with an ignition key like the Ridstar Q20 does. You know, it's not really going to stop somebody from stealing it, but it is nice to see that on a bike. And we will free our display here. All right, so we got the HiKeep fully assembled here. Assembly wasn't too bad. It is mostly assembled. The headlight was just kind of a pain to put on. But this is a really sweet looking bike, man. This thing is sick. It's not too heavy either to pick up. And it's actually kind of a small bike. I thought this was gonna be bigger, but standing next to it, this is a bike that I think would be pretty decent for shorter people. I'm sitting on it, I'm 5'9", 150 pounds. I can flat foot it. Everything feels real good. The suspension on the back feels a little squishy. I'll show you guys in a second a walkthrough of this bike and everything, but the travel on this doesn't look like it travels much. But seating position on here is comfortable. And this is how I look pedaling on this bike. Again, I'm 5'9", and this is pretty tight for me. So if you're taller, this is not gonna be a good bike for you, especially if you're pedaling on it. I'd say if you're like 5'10", 5'11", that's probably gonna start maxing it out. You could probably squeeze by just riding this thing at 6 foot, but even at 5'9", I don't think you're gonna be able to pedal this thing very well. And this headlight that's on here is so cool. All right, I'll give you guys a walk around of this bike. So here it is. This is a really cool looking bike. So just starting off at the front here, my favorite thing on here is this headlight. It's this halo light around here with the beam in the middle. It looks really cool. And we got some mag wheels on the front here and the back. They're the same wheels, but it's nice to have these because you don't have to worry about spokes breaking and stuff. And then on this side here, you have 160 millimeter cable brakes, which isn't ideal, not my favorite. I would like to see hydraulic on here. But for this price, 900 bucks, I am totally fine with that. It's something that you can upgrade to later on down the line. We've got our front forks here, which are decently soft, and you have some adjustments here. You have a compression adjustment, but you don't have any preload adjustment on here. Then in the middle here, you have your HiKeep branded 15 amp hour 48 volt battery. Pretty standard, just kind of a regular battery that they probably just slapped their logo on, but everything was working good with that. And you've got your pedals down here with a cadence sensor, I believe, right there. And then you've got a really cool looking frame here. It's just a typical like matte black paint job on here, but everything feels pretty sturdy. Welds look pretty decent. You've got your orange and silver shock back here, which this is just like literally a plastic, plastic cover on here, and these are all fake knobs. It kind of looks silly, but it's a really small travel. I don't think I've ever seen a travel that short on an e-bike spring before, but just sitting on it feels pretty good. You can see you've got your controller and stuff back here. The wiring's like exposed there, so don't get that wet. You might want to cover that up if you're going to be riding this thing in the rain. Back wheel here, same deal as the front. You've got your mag wheel. It's got a hub motor on here, which is 1,000 watts, 1,500 watts peak from what they say on the website. And you've got 160 millimeter disc brakes back here, which are cable operated again. On the back here, you've got this tail light, which turns on with the headlights, and then it is a brake light when the tail lights are on, so that's nice to see. It also comes with turn signals here, which are operated up here on the handlebars. You can see, you can have them both on at the same time, and they flash at different rates, so that's cool. But you just operate them from here. We'll get to that in a second. Again, here's what the text is on the hub motor. 1,000 watts, 1,500 watts peak according to them. And then you have your Shimano 7-speed shifter here. Pretty standard shifter. We've seen that before on plenty of other bikes. Then we've got our seat here, which is really soft, and we're gonna take this thing out for a ride and see how it actually is. But just sitting on it at first seems really soft and nice to sit on. So this is our cockpit. You can see the beam of our headlight there up against the wall. But on the left here, we have some standard e-bike grips, which are decently comfortable. They're good enough for a bike of this price point. And this is how you control your headlight here with this switch. And then you've got your turn signal things here. And there's really no way, I thought there was gonna be lights here, but it really doesn't tell you if they're on or off. So we're gonna just turn those off. Then we've got our horn, which is decently loud. It's not as loud as some other bikes that I've seen before, so it shouldn't scare the crap out of people too bad. Then you've got your Wuxling cable brakes here. This is the rear brake, and then the other side's the front brake. Then you've got your display here, and if we hold down plus and minus on there, we should be able to get into our settings. I noticed this did come unlocked from the factory here. Looks like the top speed max is 62 miles an hour, so we'll save that. It's already maxed out from the box. The display looks the same as my Engway Engine Pro 2.0, which is to say it's a nice looking display. You can see we already got 0.6 miles, half a mile on here, and then we've got a battery bar up here. I don't think there's any way to see like your voltage or anything. This looks like it should control your headlight, so it kind of dims the display there. Then it looks like we have a walk mode on here if you hold down the minus button. And then if we press the plus button, you can see we've got 5 pedal assists. And we've got our 7-speed Shimano shifter right there, which is, again, very standard. We've seen this a million times before on the channel. We've got a twist throttle over here, which is nice and responsive. Overall, everything looks really good on this. It's comfortable so far just from sitting on it for a couple minutes. I don't think that you can fit a person on the back here. There's no place on the frame here for foot pegs, so not too worried about that. But yeah, this is actually a good sized bike, man. I'm liking the size of this. A lot of these e-bikes are huge, but this one is relatively compact. You're not fitting it in a car or anything, but it's a good sized frame here. And this bike feels like it just wants to go. This thing is pretty peppy. Brakes feel decent so far. We'll get those bedded in. But yeah, that's the HiKeep K6-G so far. Let's get this thing out on a ride and see how it does out on the road and off-road and everything. And this is a fun bike so far. We're out here riding around the HiKeep, and man, this has been such an awesome bike so far. Just from riding around, getting some B-roll and me crunching in the leaves on the ground. I am wearing the glasses that they sent me because they were nice enough to send me these. They're pretty cool. I like these glasses. They make everything look kind of crazy though. So anyways, this is the HiKeep, guys. This is an awesome bike so far. You can see we put a few miles on this thing, if the screen's still on. Yeah, we put about 3.2 miles on this bad boy, and we're gonna get on it and give it a ride and give it a proper test. So far so good though. I'm really liking this thing. So I've been out here riding this thing around for a few miles now, and I gotta say that this thing has just been a blast to ride around. It's a small little e-bike, and I love that because there's so many bikes nowadays that have crazy power, huge dual batteries, huge batteries, dual motors, big motors, but all that stuff adds a ton of weight. And I don't know exactly, I'll put up on the screen how much this bike weighs off their website, but this isn't a very heavy bike, and it's so small and compact that it feels very tossable. Sure, if you're a taller person, you're probably not gonna be riding this very well, but I mean, this just feels so compact, and I can just toss it around and it feels so good. Again, I'm 5'9", so this is a really good feeling bike for me. It's extremely windy out here, so I'm at about 2 bars out of 5 on this battery here, and it's really gone down because I've been riding in a strong headwind, so I don't know if it's just sagging down or what, but it was at about 51 volts when I left the garage, so a little bit under full, probably more like 75-80% full. Looks really awesome. I love how this thing looks. And it's just so compact. It reminds me of the Amyet V9 G60 because it's really compact, but I like that about this. Again, it feels really tossable, and the styling, as far as styling goes, looks really good. It looks like a nice moped style e-bike. Taillight and headlight are really cool. Those are kind of the standout features. This sort of like ring light headlight here. Tires are nothing special. They're Chow Yang, and they're kind of what you get on most affordable e-bikes straight from China. They're good, they're knobby, they handled the off-road like you guys just saw. And the suspension on the back so far has been pretty good. It's not the most comfortable, but it's definitely not that stiff. I think it is sprung for somebody of my weight and size. So I mean, this thing just looks, I really like how this frame looks. It looks sick. So we'll pull our speedometer up here too, and I've been riding around with the bike computer on in the background, so once all is said and done, we'll see how much range we got. We'll put the kickstand up first too, so that we're not scraping on the ground. So we're off, and then you guys can see the GPS verified speed of this bike. So far, I think the speedometer is maybe like a mile an hour or two off, but decently accurate for this. A lot of times they're a bit generous on the speedometer reading. And this did come fully unlocked out of the box. You saw in the garage, I messed with it to up to 65. That's how it just was out of the box. So this thing is fully unlocked. So I mean, with these specs, you can expect like 30, 32 miles an hour depending on how much your battery's full and how big of a person you are. But I mean, this feels really good. We're at a tailwind right now, and we're hitting on the GPS 24, 25. And there's a car about to back out into us. We hit 26, 27, I thought I saw before that car cut us off. So we'll go back here, and we'll give it a little bit of a test on the pedaling here. I will say I did pedal it a little bit. It's very awkward, and I'm 5'9". I have kind of long legs too, but we'll just pump it into 7th gear here. I'm on pedal assist 5, and it's kicking in. I will say the pedal assist is nice and gradual. It is a cadence sensor, so it just kind of kicks in and gives you a nice assist. So it's not like a big, you know, you're not going to be like thrown off the back of the bike, but it is nice. And we're at 22, and I'm just ghost pedaling now. So after 22, you don't really have much. This is just going to give you the full amount of power in pedal assist 5. So really, you're only going to be able to pedal for a little bit, and then you're not going to be able to catch up anymore. But if we knock the pedal assist down here a little bit, let's say pedal assist 3. The heck did I just ran over a tumbleweed back there? So pedal assist 3. I don't know, it's kind of giving me the beans here. It looks like it stops you at about 20 on pedal assist 3, and then pedal assist 2 probably gonna stop you at what, like 24, 25. So it feels like on the pedal assist this is just sort of a speed limited. You might not get the full power either. I mean, we'll just come to a stop here. So we'll see if it gives me the full power here. Setting off in 2nd gear. Yeah, it eases into it, but then you can feel it. It gives you the full amount of power. Off-road, this is pretty rough terrain right here. As you guys can see, it's rocky. And I'm gonna switch back to pedal assist 5. But this bike's handling it. And you can kind of hear in my voice that I'm shaking around a little bit here. The suspension is not the softest, but it's also not the most firm. This would be a decent little off-road trail bike for stuff like this. And it's just so compact and tossable. I love how this bike feels. It just feels like I can do anything on this bike. It's such a good handling bike. So the brakes on this thing are really, really good. The layout of the handles are a little bit backwards from what I'm used to. Like this is the front brake here, and this is the rear brake. Usually I'm used to it being flipped around. I guess it's more of like a motorcycle position, because on a motorcycle this is going to be your front brake and then your clutch is going to be over here. So if you're riding motorcycles, you'd be used to grabbing your front brake there, but your rear brake is going to be where your clutch is at on a regular gas bike. But the brakes on here for cable brakes are really solid. I bedded them in and everything. They are good. I'm going to downshift to 1st gear here, because I'm going to definitely need to handle or help this thing up here. But we will go down here. This is a very steep hill. I know it doesn't come off on the GoPro. It's very steep, but it is very steep. We're on 2 battery bars out of 5 here too, so keep that in mind. But we'll just pedal. Oh, barely making it. Barely made it. Yeah, you're definitely not doing that on throttle only. But if you're going up some steep hills, this bike isn't so bad at that. I'm keeping it at about 17 on this, and the speedometer is actually pretty much dead on. I'm going between 16 and 17 on the GPS, so this is a really accurate speedometer. You can definitely trust this. I do wish this display had the voltage of the battery on here. I don't know why all e-bike displays don't do that, because it's information that the computer can see, so I don't know why it doesn't allow you to see that stuff. But we're back here off-road on some more trails here. Not the roughest terrain, but there's a lot of tree roots in this section, and it's again, it's not comfortable going over these. It doesn't just eat them up, but it handles it. And if you stand up on it, you can get around the heavy stuff like the tree trunks that we're running over right now. I'll say what I always say, this is no dirt bike. If you want a dirt bike, you're gonna have to buy a dirt bike. Like a hub motor bike like this is not gonna give you anywhere near the torque that you would get of a regular dirt bike. You're always gonna feel like you're fighting on this, but once you get up to speed on these hub motor bikes like this, we're going almost 20 miles an hour off road here, and we're having fun, we're cruising. This isn't scary. I could be going, 40 miles an hour over this on a dirt bike or something, but this is nice. This is a nice speed right here. I also did install that little saddlebag thing that they included in here. The top phone case just kind of velcros on there, and I mean, it's not the best thing, and it's kind of flops around, but it's not going to flip over, and I think it'll hold your stuff just fine. It's nice to have a couple tools in there in case you need it, but that's nice that they include it. They include so much stuff with this bike, man. I'm genuinely impressed by this bike, man. I've gotten less stuff for more expensive bikes, but let's hop up here back onto the trail, and then why don't we do a top speed test while we can, because this battery's at, like I said, 2 bars here, and I kind of want to see how this, I'll lock my phone back up. I kind of want to see how this thing does with a tailwind. Again, it is just an egregiously windy day out here. It's super, super windy. So I'm going to try and do this while we got a tailwind here. And we'll go to our left here, and then we'll just floor it. We'll do a 0 to 22. Why don't we do that? So this tree will be the starting line over here on the left. Oh, we just popped down to 1 bar. Okay, so we got kind of a crosswind here, so we're going to do the 0 to 20 test. My backpack's flying around. Okay, 0 to 20 test. 0 to 20 test. 3, 2, 1, go. And we'll go with the computer speed here because it's really accurate. And 20 right there. Yeah, this thing's not throwing you off the back fast, but this is a pretty quick bike, and it's 1500 watt peak output on the rear motor, so that's nothing to that's no slouch. That's a decent specs right there, especially for 900 bucks. Suspension at higher speeds is feeling pretty decent. I can still feel the road and the bumps and everything on here, but it looks like with about 1 bar of battery left, it's not letting us get past about 25 here, which is okay. I have no doubt that with a full battery, this thing could have done 30, 32 miles an hour, but it's just so windy out, and plus it's kind of cold out today. It's like 45 degrees, so it's pretty chilly, and the battery's not going to be giving you full power when it's that cold outside like this. We're gaining a little bit of speed now. We're at 26, so we're going to flip around over here, but this, if you just want something to cruise the trails, like, again, I'm going to say this again, this is a genuinely good e-bike so far. I mean, if you just want something to cruise around, you could buy a couple of these and cruise with your girlfriend, your kids, whatever. This is just a really, really fun bike. I'm having a lot of fun. I've had less fun on bikes that cost twice as much as this, and it's crazy. You don't have to have a super fast bike to have fun. I'm gonna pull over here onto this little hill. We're gonna go down here. All right, so I'm gonna go into this with a little bit of a head start. Really steep hill here. But yeah, no problem. I also love the fact that they give you mag wheels on this bike. That's really nice to see, and there's bikes that, again, are 2-3 times as expensive as this, and they come with spoke wheels. It's not that spoke wheels are bad, it's just that the mag wheels like this are nice to have because you don't have to worry about spokes breaking and doing all that type of stuff and tightening them down. And mag wheels typically are heavier, but when I had this front wheel off, it was actually pretty light, and it really was no problem for me to lift up. It felt really good. It felt almost as light as a spoked wheel. Our ring light / headlight here keeps kind of flopping around. I have to tighten that down more. And then we got our horn. It's not too loud. I would say it's pretty good for trails and stuff. You're still going to kind of freak people out, I can tell, if you pull up behind them and start honking that, but it's not bad. Pedaling on this bike is really awkward. I would not recommend this bike if you're going to buy something that you need to pedal around and stuff, and like consistently pedal it to get it around. Like if the battery dies on this, you're not going to have a fun time. Not because this bike is super heavy, but just because this, like, it's very awkward to pedal this thing. I don't know if it's coming across on camera or if you can even see it, but it's just, I can't put the power down like I could on a regular mountain bike or something. Do not buy this thing to pedal it, but they are there mostly to deter police from asking questions, but they're also there because in a pinch you could definitely use them to get around if your battery dies or something. Brakes, like I said, I'm very happy with these brakes. For being cable brakes, these are some of the best cable brakes that I've ever used. They get you to stop just on a dime. And really, on this bike, I do not miss hydraulic brakes on here. Of course, they would be nice. And if you buy this because you're on a budget, you can go and upgrade this later on. You can buy a set of hydraulic brakes. It'll cost you, you know, 50, 80, maybe $100. And you throw them on there. It's a pretty simple replacement. Handles so good. That turn was just, it feels like I'm connected to the bike. I love how this thing feels. I can just toss it around. It feels so good. I am genuinely loving this bike. They make a really, really good bike here. And hopefully this thing lasts. You know, hopefully the longevity's there. But just overall right now, everything feels good. It feels well put together. There's no weird squeaks and rattles. There's no sounds coming from the brakes. Like, again, I have had bikes that are 2 or 3 times as much as this, and I've had to adjust stuff out of the box. I've had to, you know, fix squeaks and rattles and stuff. This just works. I actually don't want to stop riding this thing, but I really don't know how much battery I have left, so I'm kind of staying closer to the garage. Go up this fire extinguisher here. Yeah, so I mean, up steep hills, especially since the battery's dying here, I do have to help it out. But overall, I mean, come on. This is not a dirt bike here. This is a little e-bike. People ask me if a particular bike would be good for delivery. And this is one that probably wouldn't be too good for delivery, I'll be honest with you. I mean, you could probably jimmy something up, but really there's no built-in space for like a front rack, for a rear rack, anything like that. I'll give this suspension like a 6 out of 10. I think that if I was a little bit heavier, it might work better. For something out of the box, this is perfectly fine. If this thing was dual motors, it would be freaking awesome. HiKeep, if you're watching this, you should make a dual motor version of this bike, because that would be a lot of fun. So I'm getting a little bit more confident on this off-road stuff on this bike, and we're just cooking. Man, that is a lot of fun. That is a lot of fun. Now we're going fast downhill here. Hit the brakes. These cable brakes are seriously the best cable brakes I've ever tested. Like they're just so good. They're very responsive. There is a little bit of that like rubber bandy feeling where you're just hard on the brake lever and nothing more is really happening. Hydraulic brakes are a lot more linear, but this really is not bad at all. These are perfectly passable. It's not like you have to upgrade these. You could deal with these for a long time, and you know, once they wear out, you could just throw on hydraulic brakes and you'd be good to go. Alright guys, so I'm gonna keep riding this a little bit. We're gonna see how much range we can get out of this thing, and then I'll see you guys back at the back cave where we're gonna give you the final range and my final thoughts on this bike. But I'm telling you, unless this thing like blows up, I'm probably not gonna have anything bad to say about this bike. This thing has been so much fun, such a blast so far. So we'll see you guys back home. All right guys, so we are back, and it is actually the next day because I was riding this thing yesterday. It was really cold outside and I didn't charge the battery fully. Like I said, I probably had 80% battery left, so I wanted to give this thing a fair shake and see how much range we could get out of its 15 amp hour battery. And you can see we went about 15.3 miles. And I'm gonna add a half a mile back into that because I accidentally cleared the trip when I was trying to mess around with the settings when I was out about half a mile on the ride. But overall, this is such a sick bike. I like this thing a lot, and it's one of my favorite bikes that I've tested out so far, actually, especially for the price point. One thing I would like to see on this, of course, is hydraulic brakes. We talk about that all the time. Hydraulic brakes are the best, but these cable brakes are probably the best that I have ever tested. They work really good. Nothing funky's happened so far in the first, 20, 25, 30 miles or however long I've taken this. Nothing weird has really happened with these brakes so far. They seem like pretty good quality brakes. I also love this headlight on here, the ring lights around it, and then the beam in the middle. Tail light also really nice, but one thing I do wish was improved on this bike was the turn signal thing here. It looks like there's lights above this for, indicate that your turn signal's on, but I pressed that and turned it on. You can see the turn signal's on and nothing's happening up here. So you really have no way of knowing if your signal's on or not. There's no beep, there's no visual indication with a little light there. So that's one annoying thing. Also, there's no way you're pedaling this bike unless you're like 5'4". Like, it's just not going to be comfortable. This is a moped style bike, and it's pretty much meant to be ridden around on throttle. So if you buy this bike, don't expect to be pedaling it much. As far as range goes, you can see we have one battery bar left on there. I think you could probably get another 3 miles out of this at least. So you could get, 15, 20 miles at least on battery. And I was riding this thing around like a maniac, full throttle, off-road, uphill, all that kind of stuff. So I really put this thing through the ringer and abused it. And I still get good range out of this, but it is a 15 amp hour battery, so you're not going to be getting the longest range. If you need something with longer range, you're probably going to want to get a 20 to 25 amp hour battery or a dual battery bike so that you get even more range. The seat was pretty comfortable. I would say it's about average for a moped style e-bike. It didn't really hurt too much, but the riding position on this is going to be more hunched over, sort of like a sport bike. So you're going to have a little bit more strain on your back and everything, and that can get fatiguing after a while. So it is a more hunched over position, but it looks a little bit more aggressive. It looks cool, but it's not going to be the most comfortable for riding around long distances. I do love that they gave us this little saddlebag and those sunglasses that are somewhere over there that you guys saw earlier. I really don't have much bad to say about this bike besides turn signals could be better. The rear suspension's pretty good for what it is. It doesn't travel much, so keep that in mind. But overall, this is a really awesome bike. The HiKeep K6-G. This thing has been really awesome for me so far, and I can't wait to put some more miles on it. And I might update you guys on how this is later because my girlfriend really loves this bike too, so we're gonna see how she does on it and if she puts some more miles on this thing. But maybe I'll do an update video later on that. But with that being said, guys, that is the HiKeep K6-G. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.